Coracle World Heritage. Marion Blockley provides a short introduction to the wide range of different coracle making traditions that exist around the world. These include 2 World Heritage Sites, Hampi in India and Brunaboyne in Ireland. Did you know that the original Noah's Ark may have been a large coracle or quaffer? Or that the basket that Moses was hidden in may well have been a coracle? If you have any links to coracle making in different parts of the world, the Ironbridge Coracle Trust would love to hear from you. Follow the links at the end of the talk. The talk is followed by archive film footage by Peter Badge of coracles being made in India and Vietnam.
So today we're in the Ironbridge Gorge World Heritage Site, which is famous for its contribution to the Industrial Revolution nationally and internationally. But we're looking today at the coracle tradition that existed for hundreds of years before the Iron Bridge was built. The Ironbridge Gorge looks stunning in this image, and you can see in the foreground in the middle a very humble little coracle shed which the Ironbridge Coracle Trust has just finished conserving, and to its right the house of the Coracle family of the Rogers coracle men. The coracle is one of the oldest and strangest looking craft for use on rivers. They were used for ferrying people around, for fishing, and also for poaching. Basically, they come in a whole range of different shapes and sizes, but essentially they have to be light enough to be carried by one person. They have to be manoeuvrable on a shallow river. In Britain, they should be capable of being paddled by one paddle, and made of laths, a basketwork framework made of hazel or willow or ash, or internationally more likely of bamboo. The other thing that coracles were particularly useful for, and particularly the Ironbridge coracles, was in times of flood. In Ironbridge we had floods every 20 years. This is the 1922-25 flood, and this year in 2020 we had a dramatic flood that lasted for a couple of weeks and almost swept the coracle shed away. But there is a global flood, the flood, Noah's flood, and remarkably Noah's Ark, there is evidence to suggest that Noah's Ark was actually a giant coracle, or in the Iraqi tradition, a kufa. These were huge coracles that carried many people, they carried animals, they carried goods. And Irving Finkel, who's in the foreground of this image here, who's a curator at the British Museum, an expert in cuneiform tablets and analysing cuneiform tablets, was given a tablet which had all the detailed instructions on how to build Noah's Ark. And it was in fact a giant kufa, or a giant coracle. So here in this image we have Irving and his colleagues who created a scale replica of Noah's Ark made out of pomegranate wood, date palm and rope. And it is a quite remarkable thing, the idea that the coracle was actually the original Noah's Ark. And here's an image that shows you what it looked like. It had a below deck area for the animals to go on, and people were on top. Sennacherib, who lived at Nineveh city, the Iraqi king, he actually used coracles, and they were used for transporting people, as I say, and for goods across the area. This is showing you the kufa, the Iraqi kufa. This is on the Tigris from the roundabouts 1920, and in this image the guys in the foreground are actually carrying sacks of grain which they're loading onto this raft. So this was the model, this was the prototype of Noah's Ark. These Iraqi kufas were much larger than the ones we have here in Britain. Our British coracles, as I say, were light and portable, enough to be carried by one person. Our coracles had a single seat. These ones were empty and open, so you could use them as a sort of a lighter. And you can see here that they were actually used as water taxis. There's about 20 people in this coracle, quite remarkable. there is evidence to suggest that women were actually involved in making these coracles. There's a guy called James Hornell who did the original study of world coracles, and in the 1920s he was told that a blind woman from Iraq had actually made one of the coracles that was shown to him. So that is quite remarkable. Another even stranger idea is that Moses in his basket, the story of Moses in his basket that his mother Marion coated with tar and ash and bitumen to make it waterproof, that too may well have been an early coracle, a basket weave coracle. So this is one of the earliest forms, probably if not the earliest form of simple coracle. This is called a bull boat, and they were made by the Buffalo Plains Indians in North America up to 1,000 years ago. They're very simple, made of buffalo hide with a twisted wooden frame. And they were made by the women of the Sioux and the Dakota and the various tribes. They used them to transport meat, buffalo hide, meat and wood, firewood, back to the plantation, back to the villages. And also there are images showing several trains of coracles all linked together, several trains of bull boats. So a very, very simple type of boat. And this one is, we're very pleased to show you this. This is made by Terry Kenny, who has been the chair of the Ironbridge Coracle Trust, and he's a coracle maker from Newport in Shropshire. And he made this replica of a bull boat, which is now at the National Coracle Centre at Carnarth in West Wales. So coracles were even made high up in the Himalayas, in Tibet. In Tibet they were known as kudru, and they were made from a willow frame with a hide cover. The Dalai Lama actually escaped from Tibet when he was under threat in one of these coracles. So they truly are a global tradition. These are Indian coracles, which are known as parasols. They're made from a framework of bamboo, and they originally were made with a hide covering, but now they're made with sacks. They're remarkable things. They're used for transporting goods and people across rivers, and originally they were even used for hunting crocodiles. Here's showing the process of manufacturing a coracle from the bottom up. This is a Hampi coracle. And again here you can see the what originally would have been a hide covering, but nowadays they use sacks and whatever they can find available, and then give it a waterproof covering of pitch or tar or bitumen. And there you can see the recycling of the sacks, the feed sacks that they use. And these are still in use, although technically it's not legal to transport motorcycles and the like. But they are still in use for transporting people at Hampi. This one is a Chinese tugboat, and again with a bamboo frame, waterproof covering and lacquer to keep it waterproof. The whole family could be transported, and you could even provide food inside. You take a pot of food with you. The Vietnamese coracles are rather fabulous. Again, they're made from bamboo, and they're lined with a sort of carpet of woven bamboo. You'll be able to see in the video that we show you that Peter Badge took how they're literally kicked into shape. Here in Ironbridge, when we fit a cover on a coracle frame, we have to sew it into shape, but these are literally kicked into shape. And then you can see the different pattern of the bamboo basket weave. I mean, these are really fabulous structures, and they are still in use in Vietnam. They're widely used. This is a rather beautiful but somewhat unusual type of coracle known as a curragh. They're used in Ireland. This is a Donegal curragh, a paddling curragh, and they were used with two people. Paddling kneeling rather than sitting, unlike our English or Welsh coracles, but more substantial, more skill involved in creating the framework. Now this is Clive O'Gibney, who's based at the Boyne Curragh Centre, which again is another of our World Heritage sites, the site of the 6,000-year-old chambered tombs of Newgrange and Knowth and Douth. And again, there seems to be a tradition of coracles on the River Boyne, perhaps going back as far as 5,000 or 6,000 years. And Clive and his colleagues have been championing the tradition of Boyne coracle making. Again, they're still making them with willow and hazel framework and a hide covering. This is a very early picture of Clive. This is a very unusual type of coracle. This is actually photographed at the National Coracle Centre at Connaught. And it's a replica of the Scottish type of coracle, the Speyside coracle. These are very different to the Welsh or the English coracles. It is based on an 18th century coracle that was found in a barn near Elgin. And again, it's split hazel in a basket weave with a covering of hide. And they were used for, and there's references, there's documentary references that say they were actually used to transport timber and to guide timber down the river. And here we have people making a replica of this Speyside coracle. And as I say, there's one in Elgin Museum, there's one at the National Coracle Centre in Connaught. The Welsh coracles are a story in themselves. There are so many variations. Every river in Wales had its own variation on the shape of coracle. They look quite different to the Ironbridge coracles. What you'll notice here, and the guy on the right, apart from the fact that he looks very much like Spike Milligan, possibly Spike Milligan's older granddad, I'm not sure, but you'll notice that these coracles have a sort of a flat edge to them. And that's because the way they were fishing, so that they didn't snag their nets. The Welsh coracle fishermen used to run their net between two coracles, almost like a trawl net. So they had a flat front so the net would not snag. And these are fishermen from Connaught. And here you can see them successfully fishing for salmon. There's a very, very long tradition of salmon and suin tradition, fishing for suin. Suin are sea trout. Sadly, nowadays, on the Towie and the Teivi, where licences are still available, there are only 5 licences left to continue to fish for salmon and suin in the traditional way. So this is very much a cultural tradition under threat. But as I say, there are so many variations of coracles on the Dee, the Towie, the Taff, the Teivi, and all of the Welsh rivers, but we don't have time today. That will be the subject of another talk, another time. This magnificent lady here, who is so emblematic of Wales, the coracle really is part of the Welsh tradition, and this is Hannah Rees in the foreground at Connaught. And as I say, you can, if you're very interested in Welsh coracles, the coracle tradition internationally, go to the National Coracle Centre at Connaught on the Teivi. Peter Badge, who was chairman of and president of the Coracle Society nationally, has very generously donated a series of videos that we're going to show you in a moment, showing the manufacture of coracles in Vietnam and also in India. This is Peter with a replica of a very unusual coracle from near Maen which he donated to the Welsh National History Museum. But Peter, James Hornell in the 1920s and 1930s, and Geraint Jenkins, who was keeper of social history at the Welsh History Museum, which used to be known as St Fagans, have all been very, very active in collecting the history of coracles nationally and internationally. We believe at the Ironbridge Coracle Trust that coracles aren't a dead culture, they're actually a living tradition, and we want to involve local children, local school children, local scouts and guides, and people from community groups who may have connections with coracle traditions in their own countries to get in touch. So please contact us via our website or our Facebook page. Finally, I would like to suggest if you want to see coracles, come to us in Ironbridge, but also visit the National Coracle Centre at Kenarth in West Wales, and also visit St Fagans, the Welsh National History Museum, to see the Welsh coracles. Thank you very much for watching.
അവനെ നോക്കിയിട്ട് അതൊന്ന് കണ്ടിട്ട് നല്ലുണ്ട്. ആ മീനുണ്ട്, മീനുണ്ട്.
I'm not sure about that. Do you think they'll reach Madras?
No.
Not they.
காஃபிக்கலான்ட்டு டே போடா தூரா ஒருத்தர் இங்கே வரக்கூடாது போனா தமிழும் தெரியும், கன்னடம், மலையாளம் எல்லாம் தெரியும். அவங்க முன்ன வந்தாப்போ சின்னதா போட்டு கொடுத்த முன்ன அவங்க அதை வெட்டி கூட போட்டுக்குவாங்கப்பா. தூரம் நாங்கள்லையா வெளிநாட்டுக்கு அப்படி வந்து தெரியுவீங்க.
I should think so.
Vida.
To see another coracle maker. I will give the name of the village and him later when we move in to see him. This is just the shot of the outside premises.
And is still the
This is a king-size
Yeah,
coracle.
I think that's
It is
right.
oval in shape.
is used that for measure.
Yes. The coracle maker here is measuring the lath. The coracle maker is starting the weave for the mat which will form the hull of the coracle. And they're now working again on the very large.
Anh vừa nấu dưới hết.
The
Bạn bé 4 cái là bé.
coracle maker is now going to demonstrate how the weave changes from the basic weave for the most part and in the center of the craft. And we are in the village of Tankei where men are making coracles. There are two men inside. One is planing the bamboo and the other one is splitting the laths. One is using a tool like a billhook, but the other one is more like a machete. The coracle maker has made a gunnel supported on poles which can be seen. After that he makes the mat of the split bamboo, the weave of which is different around the edges to enable it to be bent up, and then he and his assistant with their feet tread it down. He's now lashing the frame of the basket of the coracle onto the gunnel. He has something like a fid which he penetrates the basket and then lashes it with something which looks like rattan. He's now doing exactly the same on the other side of the coracle. In fact, it's not rattan, it's very finely cut bamboo that he's using. He then lashes up the opposite sides.
Kim tận ta không? Có mắt thì có. Cho nó đùng.
Where we would take a tuck in the coracle, he just batters it with his feet, and miraculously it goes into shape.
Từ đây là bác dành tao nữa là coi như là cộng da rồi. Cộng thái điện hình luôn chứ. Đấy chú Tú.
Yes, after this, and you put
We are travelling to the water puppet show at night in a rickshaw. Mary's rickshaw is just ahead of us at the moment. We're at the water puppets. The show has not yet started.